All right. Hello, and welcome to the start of something that's new for me and probably a bit new for you as well. This semester in my composition studies, I've been introduced to what for me is a bit of a new idea, which is a term that that my professors have been calling comprovisation. And basically, what that is a cross between composition and improvisation, as the name implies. And I've been really fascinated by this idea, and I quite like it for a couple of different reasons. Not least of which is, well, um, we'll get into that in just a second, actually. But I like the idea of comprovisation, and I want to make it a practice of my own, at least for the rest of the semester. I'll be doing this in part for a class, but also just because I think it's cool, I think it's fun, and it will give me a chance to stretch my abilities and to share music with you in a different way. The reason why I kind of like this idea of comprovisation is I'd say there's two main things that come to mind with why this is such an interesting idea for me. The first is that I feel like I've been really investigating the idea recently of music being being an experience that we create as musicians and not just an artifact of a creative process. And now, granted, that the fact that these are going to be recorded videos is works a little bit against that, but I hope that knowing the way these were created is a little bit brings a little bit of that experiential aspect of it into you, so that you know that this is um, uh, more than just a recorded performance, but this is a way of sort of thinking and living with music that I think is more true to what we want our experience with music to be, in a lot of ways at least. The other reason why I think this is an interesting sort of medium to use is that it gives me an opportunity to give, I think, a bit more of a window into how I think about composition, and I think into the way that a lot of composers do think about composition, which I think is different from the way that it might be perceived in like a public setting and of a popular sort of mythos around composition, which is that the idea that basically all that being a good composer requires is that you have this gift for creating great tunes. And certainly there are composers who do have that gift, but that's not necessarily what makes a good composer a good composer. There was one time when I read an article that surveyed a bunch of conductors, and they suggested that the best symphony ever written was Beethoven's Third Symphony. Now, if you've never heard that symphony, I'll just play you the opening theme is this melodic line that's in the symphony played by the cellos first. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think that that's the greatest tune ever written. It's kind of boring, honestly, and the same could go for a lot of this stuff that Beethoven writes, even in his most popular and most well-known pieces of music. I don't think that the thing that's driving their greatness necessarily is the quality of the tunes alone. What Beethoven does and what other composers, great composers, do really well, and what I'm trying to learn how to do, is to see those musical ideas not just as tunes, but sort of as the raw materials that you use to a um, build a piece of music. They're like the elements, the building blocks, the Lego bricks, whatever analogy you want to use, and the way that those get reused and used and combined and stacked together and juxtaposed with each other. That's where I think a lot of the real genius of composition lies, not just in terms of having pretty tunes in your music, though I do love pretty tunes as well. So, with that in mind, what is going to follow this introductory video is a series of videos of me comprovising. I'm going to be making about one a week for the rest of the semester at least, and then we'll sort of see where that leaves us as far as me being able and interested in continuing the practice. But each of these videos is going to have basically 3 rules. Number 1, in every video, I am going to be working from sort of I'll call it a compromised score. So I'll give you a snapshot of what that looks like for my first one, which I'll be playing here in just a few moments, which is that instead of sort of the normal sheet music, I'm going to be reading from a page which does have a little bit of music on it, but it mostly is just a set of instructions for the comprovisation. And with that going on, I'll basically I mean, so yeah, this is the material that I'm using. This is the thing that I've written, so to speak, to tell me how to comprovise in such a way to create a new and exciting piece of music each time, but sort of along the same general ideas that I'll be using from performance to performance of the piece. So rule number one is that I'm working from a comprovisation prompt that is no more than one page. And this is a pretty full page. Most of them will probably be somewhat less tightly packed than this. This one had just a lot of basic instructions that I wanted to include since it was the first one. So that's rule number one. Rule number two is that every prompt I come up with has to include some new element that I haven't used before. And I don't know exactly what that'll look like yet. Maybe it'll just mean that I'm coming out with my materials in a different way. Maybe it means that I'll be trying to create the kinds of sounds that I haven't required myself to create yet in the comprovisation. This first one is going to be fairly general just because I'm still getting used to the idea and figuring out what works for me as part of my practice. But rule number two is every prompt is going to include something new. And the third condition of each comprovisation is that they are all one take. So that means that there's going to be no editing, no re-recording, barring technical difficulties. I will hit record one time, play through my comprovisation one time, and upload that video to this playlist in that form, unedited. In fact, the only thing that you will see in this playlist which has been in any way re-recorded is this introductory video, which I took a few times just to get all of the basic wording and sort of important points lined up to a place where I felt good about it. With that said, I think I've talked enough for this video, so I will go ahead and just encourage you to check out what you see here. Hope you like it. I'm going to pause, get ready to do comprovisation number one, and in that video I'll briefly introduce what the prompt is. You'll also be able to see I'll upload with the video of my interpretation of the prompt. I'll also upload a copy of the score that I'm working from in each case. With that said, hope you like it, and without any further ado, let us get to work.